Well, we're very fortunate tonight. We got to roll out the red carpet here for Jerry and Bob, and I'm really honored that No Studios could host this. As I said, thank you. They're doing a lot of great things here in the community. They're doing a lot of outreach and a really kind of a creative hub here, and check it out. They have events. Check out their website and look and support them in all their endeavors. Really kind of a creative incubator for all the creative talent here in Wisconsin. So really thank you, John and Lisa and everyone here at No Studios. I appreciate all that you do for the community and the outreach that you have. We'd like to really emphasize how fortunate we are to have Dario Mendez here. A lot of you know him, obviously. He's the WISN 12 sports director. Few things you might not know about Dario, however. He's a 2-time Emmy winner. He's the reigning WBA Sportscast of the Year. And this one should be a trivia and some prize. We might even give away one of Jerry's posters on this one. But he was also the 2-time Wisconsin State Fair cream puff eating champion. Who knew that? Raise your hand if you knew that. Oh, there's one. Okay, he gets a poster over here. But Dario, if you'd come up and kind of kick this off, and thank you again on behalf of No Studios in Milwaukee for taking time out of your schedule to host this.
Thank you, Chris. I'm going to have to, round of applause for Chris. I'm going to have to hire him and introduce me everywhere I go. Again, I'm Dario Mendez, but you guys don't care about me being here. There's one person we really want to talk about, and that's the man, the myth, the legend, Jerry Kramer. So we're going to get Jerry Kramer up here right now, and I kick this shindig off. All right. Here he comes. And after that, Bob Fox, who is his co-author, will be joining us as well. So this is really cool, and I got to watch out for these swivel chairs. Bob's right back there. You never trust the Chicago Bears. So what do we think about last night's game, folks? Do we not want to talk about that? Yeah, exactly. We'll get Jerry's thoughts, too. Okay. So in case you don't know, and I want to make sure I get all of these accolades right, the man next to me was pretty good at football, if you didn't know that. 5-time NFL champion, 61, 62, 65, 66, 67. A 7-time All-Pro, a 3-time Pro Bowler, member of the 1960 All-Decades team, NFL 50th Anniversary All-Team, Packer Hall of Fame, and in 2018, after way too long, a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And what I love, exactly.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And Jerry, what I really love is after watching the video and seeing all the faces, you're a generational figure. You haven't played in 55 years. Think about that. You haven't touched the field since Super Bowl II, and yet your impact with this Packers community is still felt. That's got to make you feel great.
It really does. I grew up, first of all, I lived till I was about 5 or 6 in a major city in eastern Montana with 200 people. And so we moved from there to a much larger city in Sandpoint, Idaho, of 3,000 people. But I got to go to Green Bay, and that was exactly what I was hoping for. I didn't know a lot about Green Bay. In fact, a buddy of mine gets drafted by the Lions, and I'm in class when the draft is going on, and he comes up to the building and waits for me, and I come out of my class, and he goes, "You got drafted." It's great. Who drafted me? Green Bay. Where the hell is Green Bay? It's by a big lake. Oh, yeah, it is a big lake. So I didn't really know a lot about professional football. I did know that the Los Angeles Rams had a ball player that was Crazy Legs Hirsch, And
He was okay.
The name caught me, right? So I kind of wanted to be a Los Angeles Ram. And we went to Green Bay and made the team, and it was touch and go. We had a coach named Curly, what the hell was our coach's name? Anyway, he was Scooter McLean. Scooter was a one-year coach, and I had been told by my coach at the college all-star game that I wouldn't make the Green Bay team. And this is a pro ball player. He had a career of 8 or 10 years. And so I take it as gospel, right? I figured the man knows what he's talking about. So I go to Green Bay, and I'm looking around, I'm giggling, I'm laughing, I'm having a great time. And coach calls me and says, what is wrong with you? I said, nothing's wrong with me. And he said, well, you're looking over the fence, you're giggling, you're carrying on, you're not paying attention. I said, well, I'm waiting to be traded. What? I'm waiting to be traded. The coach in the All-Stars said I'd be traded. Well, I'm not going to trade you. Now, you're starting Thursday night. And so we went 1-10-1 with me in the starting lineup. And then a fella named Lombardi took over the following year. And you saw in the movie that he said there are trains and planes and buses leaving here every day, and some of you may be on them. I've got a 5-year contract, and I'm going to be here. So just know that there's a train leaving every day, and some of you may be on. So he started off by just chewing everybody up. Just you couldn't avoid him, really. And I blew a couple plays, and he gets about 6 inches from my nose, and he goes, Mister, the concentration period of college students 5 minutes, high school is 3 minutes, kindergarten is 30 seconds, and you don't have that, so where's that put you? Looking at my shoes, right? And I go up he dismisses the linemen and the backs stay out and wide receivers on pass patterns, and they got an extra half hour or so. And I'm sitting in the locker room, chin up, hat off, elbow on my knee, chin in my hand, looking at the carpet, trying to figure out what life is going to be like tomorrow, and where am I going to play, and what am I going to do. And I had assumed that tirade was his opinion of me had dropped pretty much, if he ever had a high opinion. But anyway, he comes in the locker room and sees me, and he comes over to where my bench is, and he pats me on the back of the neck and pushes me on the shoulder, and he says, oh, I wasn't talking about you. What's the matter with you? One of these days, you're going to be the best guard in football. And that comment carried me for the next 12 years, because I wanted that very badly to be a good football player. I was having a wonderful time in a wonderful town with an incredible group of guys. It was just a really fun thing to be doing. And he was just a hell of a coach. He did a great job, and he motivated us, everybody. But you always had that knowledge of that first time when he'd chewed you real bad, and you knew that it was only that far away. So you gave him your best shot, did the best thing you could do, and tried to be part of the team.
And I think we hear a lot about those stories about Vince Lombardi being a tough coach, a great coach, but what kind of person was he?
Well, he was a religious man, dead honest man, would not tolerate bigotry or any of that African-American problems. That they were Green Bay Packers, They were not African Americans or any other issue. They were Green Bay Packers. And he believed strongly, as his Italian heritage led him to believe in that this was not a good idea. So he went to see him on his. He was in the hospital in Washington, coaching with the Washington Redskins, and he was quite sick. And Fuzzy and I flew down to Washington to say goodbye. And we arrived at his room, and he was laying in bed with his hands down at his side, and his eyes were shut, and his teeth was clenched, and he was grimacing. And I went over to his bed, touched his arm, and said, "Coach, I know where you are. I'm not going to stay long. I just want to tell you how much you meant to me and how much I love you and how much I appreciate you." And he kind of nodded his head and kind of dismissed me in a way, kind of moving his hand. And so I get to the door, and the nurse comes in. And she's full of air, right? And Coach opens his eyes and looks at her and sees me going out the door and said, "Jerry, come back, come back." So I went back, just talk with him a minute and spend some more time. And he says, "Show her your stomach." And I had multiple operations in my stomach. I had a colostomy for a while and just a mess, right? So I pulled up my shirt and showed the nurse my stomach. And he said, "See there, he beat it." Okay. And then he dismissed me. And he went back to clenching his teeth and shutting his eyes and fighting that cancer. And he truly believed he was going to beat it. But he didn't. But we had a great ride and a great run. And the trophy that personifies the Super Bowl is the Vince Lombardi trophy. And it will forever be. And so as long as we have football, we'll remember Coach Lombardi.
That's got me a little teary-eyed.
Thank you.
You mentioned a great ride. I mean, just when you talk about the Lombardi Packers, I mean, you were a member of that unit. You want to talk about a great ride. We mentioned the 5 championships. 2 of those ended up being a Super Bowl, Super Bowl 1 and 2. What was it like being a member of that team?
It was like a big family. There was a great bond, and you wanted to contribute to the team, and therefore contribute to everybody on the team. And it was just a wonderful group of guys, and our goals were all the same. Everybody wanted to win, and they would pay the price to win. And there was a significant price to pay under Coach Lombardi. The grass drills were until you were almost unable to walk or get up or do anything, right? He was just definitely believed in conditioning. I had an accident when I was a kid, and I ran a stick. I was chasing a calf to try to get it by the tail and put it back in the pen, or my 6'5" father with a big strap would visit with me. So I was trying to get the calf back in the pen, right? And I'm running after it and grabbing it. I'm going to grab it by the tail and steer it in under the fence. And it steps on a 1x6 and splinters a 1x6, and the sharp spear-shaped end enters my groin about a ½ inch above my leg and comes within an inch or so of coming out my back. Yeah. And so I laid down, and we called the doc, and we waited for an hour. And the doc, we called the doc again, and he said, "Oh, I thought you were bringing him down here." "No, doc, we're kind of waiting for you to come look at this thing." So we operated on me, and I took a sliver that was probably 10, 11 inches long and about as big as your thumb. It was lodged in the muscle along the spine. But they didn't go from the point of entry to the other sliver. And 14 years later, we found 2 more slivers in there that were 3.5, 4 inches long and had caused me a little discomfort for some reason. So I went to the doc and I actually went to Mayo first, and they operated on me, and the incision, the stitching in the incision burst, and I was there for another week, 10 days, and I had a massive fever, of course, and they made me a colostomy. If anybody ever wants to make you a colostomy, tell them you'd rather pass. It's really not much fun. The intestine's out the side, and you have a sac on it and all the ugly parts of it. But Dr. Brault in Green Bay said, Jerry, there's something else in there. There's something more that's not allowing you to heal. And we need to go back. I said, I don't want any more go back. I've had all the go back I can stand. And he scheduled another operation, and I didn't show. And he finally scheduled the 3rd operation, and I showed. And he went in and found those other slivers, healed things up. And a couple months go by, and I'm feeling pretty good. I'm down to 179 pounds at my lowest, and I'm back up to 210, 215, 220, and I'm ready to go. So I go see Coach Lombardi. Coach, I'm ready to sign my contract. Jerry, we can't count on you. I want you to go home. We'll take care of your salary, we'll take care of your hospital, everything. Don't worry about anything. We'll take care of it. I just want you to go home. Coach, I'm not going home. If I go home, it's over for me. I'll never come back. I just feel that. And he said, well, I just can't count on you. I said, well, I'm counting on me. And so we go back and forth for 45 minutes to an hour, and he says, I'm going to put you with the defense. And I said, hell, I always wanted to play defense anyway. But I got on the field, right? I got on the field, and I ran a half a lap. Our tradition was to run around the goalpost 3 times, make 3 laps. And I ran a half a lap, and my lungs seized up. And I couldn't breathe. I'm just really choking to death. And Don Chandler, kicker, Oklahoma, roommate, comes up to me and says, what's wrong? I can't breathe. I can't get any air. He says, well, how much did you run? I said, half a lap. And he said, Jerry, I don't have to run any of this stuff. I'm a kicker, and I do what I want to do, but I'll run the other 2.5 laps for you. He said, okay, that'd work. So he runs the 2.5 laps, and he says, come on, we're going over by the tower where the guys are doing the calisthenics. Now, if they do 50 push-ups and you can only do 5, I'll do 45. Now remember, I'm a kicker, and I don't need to do any of this stuff. He sat beside me for 37 days, and I was able to do all the calisthenics on the 37th day. And that is what the team was all about. That story, it could have been any 2 guys on the team, and I think the same outcome would have happened. But that's a guy who really goes against his position and helps a big dummy like I am. He would deserve to go to heaven, I think. So
all I did was ask Jerry Kramer, tell me about the Packers, the Lombardi Packers, and we found out about a calf, something almost puncturing your groin, the coach. I mean, the point is, Jerry is a phenomenal storyteller, and I think all you had to say was we were like a family. But I love that you gave us that story another story that we were talking about before, and I know it's in your book, Run to Win, which we'll doing some signed copies later, and we'll talk about in a second with Bob Fox. 1962 All-Star game, college All-Star game. Some guy named Bubba, right? He made it into your book for the first time. That's how you know.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's good.
Yeah. Bart was a very quiet gentleman. He wouldn't say a bad word if he had a mouthful of it. He was just a very nice man. And the Chicago Trib supported our college all-star game. We were down in Chicago for the college all-star game, and the Trib was sponsor. So I get up on the morning of the game, get a newspaper, and from the very tip top of the back page all the way to the bottom was a picture of Bubba Smith. Bubba was 6'8", 285 pounds. And down at the bottom of the newspaper, there was a caption that says, "Come see Bubba kill Bart." And I'm going, if this guy stumbles and falls on somebody, he's going to be a hero. Everybody's going to be watching him, and I've got a really big job today. Bubba gets by me, and he, about into the first quarter, and maybe in the second quarter. Anyway, he gets to Bart, and he says, "All night long, old man, all night long, Bubba gonna be in here on top of you." And Bart told me what he said, and the guys came into the huddle, and he looks at me and he said, "Call a play." "What do you mean, call a play? I've never called a play, not even in junior high, or junior third graders or whatever, you know." And so he said, "Call a play," without any preparation, any idea, anything at all. And the game is going on, and I'm going, "Okay, let's Forrest and I will double team him." Okay, so we ran it. We gained about 6 or 7 yards. I said, "Fuzzy gonna trap him." Okay, we gained 6 or 7 yards, and I called about 6 or 7 plays, and we got across midfield and on down to about the 40, 35 to 40. And I look over, and 6'8" Bubba is patting himself on the head, and he's taking himself out of the game. And I got a huge kick out of that. I don't remember him coming back either. But Mr. Starr surprised me a little bit on that particular day. So,
what surprised me is after we were having a conversation, and I don't know if you know this, the Packers are playing the Raiders in, a week and a half. Super Bowl II, Packers-Raiders. Packers win that game. The game before that, everybody I speak to has somehow been there. You were born in 1985, but somehow you were at the 1968 Ice Bowl. And when we were talking, I didn't realize your film study is a big reason why you guys got to Super Bowl II.
You know, there was some great ball players, some really exceptional ball players. Merlin Olsen was a 15-time All-Pro or something like that. They were just, Leo Nomalini was a professional wrestler for 10, 12 years and a defensive tackle. So Leo was a real package. They called him Leo the Lion, of course, and he was just bellowing, you know, and calling you all kinds of names and calling the officials names, and they didn't discipline him or throw him out or anything. They just let him burp. So I'm studying the films on Leo, and I noticed that he's on head on me, and when he has an inside responsibility, his right foot is back, and when he has a outside responsibility, his feet are parallel so that he can move easier with that left foot. And I looked at the film again and went, "Looky here, look what I found." And so I could block him if I would look at his feet And if he's going to try to go to the inside, I'm going to aim for his inside shoulder. And he's going to run into me, and we're going to tangle up there for 30 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, enough time for Bart to get to throw the ball. And so that there were several incidents like that Alex Karras was a great football player, and he was not a big fan of the Green Bay Packers for some reason. But he came through late one day. I'm kicking a 58-yard field goal, or 48 maybe, and he came through and hit me with a forearm and said, "Stick that in your blank, you blankety blank, blank, blank." And we were doing some television work together. I had signed a week before Alex signed, and if I'd known I was going to be in the booth with Alex, I probably wouldn't have signed a thing, but I did. And he suggested that I had said something the day I was trying that field goal, and then I said, "Yeah, I did," and this is what I said, and he got red in the face and bashful and invited me home to do his television show on Sunday night, and we became good pals. We became friends and did a lot of things together later on, but it was the game, if you could find the slightest little edge of somebody, maybe they got their feet cocked, maybe they got their hand different, maybe something, and give that information, then it was a very valuable information.
What did Coach Lombardi say when you gave him that information?
Coach, when you had a positive thing like that, he would talk to your coach, your line coach. And we on the play, this play, when we're doing this, we do this, and we do that. And so he was very supportive. And he only really had to chew me out one time. And I knew exactly what it felt like and how badly I hated it, and I didn't ever want to be there again, right? So I didn't get chewed out a lot because I gave him everything I had. I just took every ounce of energy and preparation and commitment and consistency and discipline and all those things. And I believed in him, and I used him, and I worked with him. So he was my pal at that point. And that's what his aim was. That's what he was trying to do when he come running across the field and got nose to nose with me. So it was a wonderful experience and growth for a young whippersnapper from Sandpoint, Idaho.
So yeah, stories like this, messages like this, you'll be able to find in Jerry Kramer's new book, Run to Win, co-authored by Bob Fox. Is Bob out there? I saw him. There he is. Bob, let's bring Bob Fox up here. As you can tell, he is an author and also a Packers fan, so you know it's good.
Tell by the shirt.
Yeah, exactly. And that deer hat, I don't know what that team is.
Well,
But I heard they might be good.
Don't you?
First off, I mean, Bob, what was it like getting to collaborate with Jerry on this book?
Incredible. Like a lot of kids in the 60s that were...
Gotta do a mic check.
Check, 1, 2. Okay. In the 1960s, obviously, I grew up in Milwaukee, big Packer fan. All of a sudden, instant replay comes out in the summer of '68. Of course, I got it. And I've been reading it every year since then, by the way, training camp time. But I mean, I fell in love with that book and became a big Jerry Kramer fan. And little did I know, so many years later that I'd collaborate with Jerry in another book. And but it was just an amazing thing. I was telling you earlier, in 1991, just before Super Bowl 25, Jerry was at a golf event where there were a bunch of football players or former pro football players. And I had written a letter to Packer Report and about why Jerry deserves to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. This is 1991. So I showed Jerry the letter. he was touched by the letter. He says, very nice letter. And he said, hopefully it'll happen one of these years. And, he had, up to that point, he had been a 10-time finalist. And so we did figure it'd be soon. Little did we know, 27 years later, we had to wait for it.
Yeah, that was 1991.
Yeah, 1991. And then about 10 years later, I actually was writing for Packer Report and later on wrote for Bleacher Report. And all that time I was writing a lot of articles about the Packers and Jerry. And Jerry said to me one time, he says, with all these articles, we probably have a book, don't we? And I said, I think we're pretty close, yeah. So we've been working on this for a while, and the biggest thing was finding the right publisher. And Triumph Books is our publisher, and they've done a great job supporting us. And it's just been a great collaboration. But, the subject matter is the thing that's going to sell this book, and that's the guy right next to me.
What's your favorite story from within the book?
There's so many. It really is. You just told one of them with the Bubba Smith one's one of my favorites. I also like the one where Jerry and Fuzzy were all pro guards in 1962. And there was an article, I believe, in SI, right, where they said, the two greatest guards in the NFL. And they were doing a practice. This is shortly after the article had come out. And I don't know if you were even in. Oh, yeah, you were practicing. And somehow a running back ran into one of the guards on a practice play, and Coach Lombardi goes, the best guards in the NFL, my ass, the worst. And Jerry got a little torched on that one. He was a little upset. And they called the next play, and Jerry just basically went to the line of scrimmage, didn't get in a stance. He basically just leaned over, didn't make a move. And the whole time when he gets back to the huddle, he's glaring at Coach Lombardi, who now is about 45 yards away. Didn't want to come close to Jerry because he knew he had upset him. And at that point, Jerry just said, yep, I'm getting off the field. He called Fuzzy in to take his spot, and he went to the sideline, had his arms crossed, and was just steaming. And Coach Lombardi, again, was staying away from him. Finally, after a few minutes, he comes over to Jerry and, musses his hair and puts his arm around him. He goes, oh, I didn't mean you.
Jerry, do you remember that?
Yeah. I hadn't heard it for a long time, though, but I do remember it at a concentration period of a college student's 5 minutes, high school is 3 minutes, kindergarten is 3 seconds. So he can get your attention in a hurry. But then, he got my attention, and I was busting my back to do the right thing and do things the right way. And I didn't always agree with him. There was a difference between calling a play and watching somebody execute it and actually executing it yourself. Yeah, all the difference in the world, sometimes about 300 pounds. So I was working. I was trying and giving it about everything I had. And so I didn't take kindly to that. I just glared at him for a while. And
he got the message.
I wasn't talking to you. No, you meant the guard. You didn't talk to a guard like that. No, I know you didn't, right? So anyway, we got over it and got through it, and Bart had an incident with him too. He would listen. He really would. He chewed Bart out one day in practice, really just got all over him. And Bart went up to the office after the practice, and the coach was up in his office, and he said, I need to talk to you. What's up? Coach, you expect me to lead this team, and yet you come out and criticize me like you did this afternoon. And nobody is going to follow me if you continue to criticize me and give me all this grief. So if you're going to criticize me, call me in the room. If you want to chew my tail, call me in the room. If you want to do something, call me and we'll talk. And he changed his mind and his attitude and never really got on Bart. And Bart was a very quiet, sweet, gentle man. and we're playing the Chicago Bears, the dastardly Bears. And they have a linebacker named Bill George, and he's a fine linebacker. Bart throws a long ball down the right sideline, about 45 yards. He's standing there with his arms down at his side watching the ball. My defensive tackle has stopped and turned around, and he's watching the ball. I'm watching the ball. Forrest Gregg is watching the ball. Bill George is not watching the ball. Bill George is coming. And so Bart is just standing there really relaxed, and Bill hits him in the mouth with a forearm, knocks him back about 10 yards, splits his lip up into his nose, and the blood just gushed out of him. And I said, Bart, you better get to the sidelines and get sewed up. You're bleeding like a stuck hog. He said, shut up and get in the huddle. I said, yes, sir. So he took us down the field and scored, and then they laid him down on the bench and sewed him up, right there in front of God and everybody. And so we got the ball back, and Bart went back in the game and led the team down to another score. And so that day, Bart Starr gave his evidence about his character and the toughness and what he could take and what he couldn't. And we never worried about it again. We never thought about it, never talked about it. He had just proven to us that he could handle that position.
We could be here all night.
There's one thing about that story that Jerry didn't really omit, but it sort of sets everything up. As after Bill George hits Starr and he's bleeding like that, he goes, that'll take care of Starr, you blankety blank. And Starr looks at him, he goes, F you, Bill George, we're coming after you. That's
the only time in 15 years, or maybe 45 or 50 years, but Bart did say the word. He did.
Bob, is there another story from the book that you want Jerry to tell that kind of stands out to you right now?
Oh, there's so many.
I like that Sinatra story.
Yes.
Sinatra, Jerry Kramer. What could go wrong?
All right.
I was down in Palm Springs, and I was maybe L.A., but we're having dinner with Rod McEwen, who is a poet, who my wife and I discovered his poetry and really enjoyed it, and got acquainted with him, and he did a foreword for one of my books, and so we were getting to be pals, and we're having dinner, and he said, Jerry, Sinatra's doing a double album of my songs tonight. He's recording. Would you like to go hear him record? I go, absolutely. I love Sinatra. He's a great artist, a great singer, wonderful. That'd be a huge kick. So we get up, and we go over to this auditorium, and Frank and the band is up on the stage. And we walk up, and Rod motions to him, and he comes over, and he had been singing a song called Two Can Dream a Dream Together. And he's going, two can dream a dream together, two can dream a dream together, two can dream a dream together. And he comes over, and I said, Frank, you're beating the hell out of that song. I said, you got to lighten up a little bit. That's a beautiful thought. That's a lovely thought. Two can dream a dream together. And he reaches out, and he makes a circular motion in front of my face several times, and he erased me. And I go back after that event, and I'm going, you didn't try to tell Sinatra how to sing a song. I mean, come on. What the hell are you thinking about? So that's one of my favorites, Bob. And now you answer the question for yours.
There's
How'd you find out you got in the Hall of Fame, Mr. Kramer?
Say it again?
How'd you find out you got in the Hall of Fame?
I was I had been nominated 11 times prior to the election. So the last couple times I had gone to New Orleans to watch the Super Bowl game and have a meeting with some of the Hall of Fame people. And it didn't happen. So the next year we went again and it didn't happen. And so I'm angry, frustrated, embarrassed, whatever. And I sit down and analyze the whole thing, and somebody is calling, wants to do a story, and I goes, hey, I've had a tremendous run. I've been extremely fortunate to have been with the Green Bay Packers and Coach Lombardi and Bart and Fuzzy and Jimmy and Paul and all the guys. And no matter where this Hall of Fame thing falls, life has been pretty good to you, Jerry Kramer. It's just been pretty good. And so I got to an accommodation with it, and I got comfortable with it. And finally, I'm at home, and my daughter, Alicia, wave to us.
Hi, Alicia.
Alicia called Governor Smiley, who was a pal of mine, a duck hunting buddy and whatnot, and he had an aide that was a pro football buff. He just loved the game. And so Alicia got a hold of him, and together they wrote about 30 letters to Leo Nomalini, Merlin Olsen, Alex Karras, all of my opponents, and all of the guys wrote a letter on my behalf. So when I saw that, I mean, that was a wonderful, beautiful thing. And it didn't happen immediately, but the next time the pro football people voted, they voted me in. And a great deal of it was because of those letters and that lady.
I heard there was a funny story about how you found out, though, in the hotel room, the knock.
Oh, yeah. Well, when we went to Minneapolis to go through the exercise and all the Hall of Fame things and get the jacket and whatnot, we had a gentleman running the Hall of Fame who was 6'9", about 400 pounds, and he's just a monster, just a huge guy, right? Well, I'm there, and I've been introduced a couple times, and we're in our room, and I've got all the kids there and friends, and there's about a dozen people in the room, and we're kind of waiting for the vote to whether we get in or not, right? And about 3 o'clock, I'm getting a little nervous because they should be here or they should notify us at this time. And so there's a knock on the door. And I jump up and run over and open the door, and it's the maid. And everybody in the room was cheering and carrying on, and the maid is, what the hell is going on here? So we shut the door, and pretty soon there's a boom, boom, boom. It's Mr. Baker. And only one guy in the world knocks like that, right? Or maybe that, what was that gorilla's name? That
King Kong? Yeah.
King Kong. Maybe Kong did it, right? So I went to the door and opened it up and gave him a big hug and said, "I love you." And he's got 6 photographers behind him, and they're all taking pictures and snapping stuff, and the kids are going nuts in the room, and I'm going nuts, and it was a wonderful, wonderful moment. It just can't be. Thank you.
50 years, long overdue, right?
Yeah.
Again, one of the many stories you'll hear in a Run to Win, My Packers Life from Lombardi to Canton. Jerry, I know we got to wrap up soon, but What was the process like? I mean, especially going from instant replay, what was this like writing this book with Bob?
Well, first of all, we're going to try to decide exactly what we're not going to do a football book, because I've written about 5 football books, and they did very well, so we were very comfortable with that. But the stories with Sinatra and Elvis, I was going to dope-pop Elvis.
Hold on a second. You have an Elvis story too?
My wife and I...
There we go. There we go. That's what I'm talking about.
She's from Mississippi, and she loved Elvis. And so we went to see Elvis, and the maitre d' put us right next to the stage. Like we have big chairs, and we got a glass, and we're putting it on the stage. And Elvis has got in his white outfit, and he's singing and doing his thing, right? And he takes a break, and he comes over to our table, and he takes his scarf off, and his white scarf, and he wraps it around my wife's neck, and he's pulling it back and forth, and my jaws get really tight. And he leans down a little bit, and I'm going to dope pop him. I'm going to give him one right in the cheeks, right? And I got my fist back and went, oh, this may not be a good idea.
Oh my God.
But I was on a hair trigger. I was that close.
I didn't see that in the latest Elvis movie. Okay, we can do a question.
First of all, I'm a classmate of Bob Fox's, and I want to acknowledge Bob, who was, like me, the class clown of our high school, and to see him accomplishing this, we're so proud of Bob.
Jerry, this is the guy? You hired the class clown?
But I love the stories. I've read the book, and I love the stories when you're a kicker. People think of you blocking on that power sweep. How many offensive linemen are a kicker? In the New York Giants game in the wind, could you tell that story?
Paul was a kicker, and Don Chandler, and Paul Horning was a kicker, and Don Chandler, of course. But Don hadn't been there yet. That was before Don, and Paul is injured for some reason. And I kicked in high school, in college a little bit. And so we're going to New York to play the New York Giants for the championship. And we're playing at Yankee Stadium. And the Yankee Stadium is such a sports heaven, such an incredible venue to be there. Babe Ruth was there, and the whole sporting world knew about that. And so I was a little tight, just a little
tiny bit.
yeah. And I'm kind of messing around the locker room, and Coach Lombardi called me over, and he said, take 3 or 4 of those young boys out and walk them around and get them kind of used to the stadium, will you? Yes, I will. I'd like to get used to the stadium myself. So we went out there, and game starts. We get in field goal position, and I'm going to kick a field goal. I'm going to try. The wind's blowing about 40 miles an hour, and it's going across the field. And so Bart's holding, and I am going to keep my head down, and I'm going to follow through. And that's the only thing I'm going to think about. Head down, follow through, get the kick going. So I had my head down. I swung my leg. I kicked the ball. I kept my head down. I kept my head down. I kept my head down. And I looked up, and the ball was outside the goalpost. I didn't see it go through the goalpost. All I saw was it was outside the goalpost. And the referee is raising his hands like it's good. And I go, what the hell is he doing? And Bart says, shut up and get off the field. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we had another incident. I kicked the three of them in an extra point, scored 10 points. We scored 16 points. I got the game ball. Ray Nitschke got the game Corvette.
Doesn't seem fair.
Yeah, he did get the game Corvette for sure, but he had a hell of a day. And we came out the second half, and the benches, they were without a back. They were just a little small bench, but they had blown out on the field. The wind had been so hard that they were out 10, 15, 20 yards on the playing field, and there were capes, weather capes, all strewn all over the place too. So it was a bad day, and I just decided that was about right. Like I say, I'm an old duck hunter and whatnot. So I got it right, and we made the score, and we go on, and we win the game, and what a wonderful feeling that was to be in Yankee Stadium and compete and do well. So it was wonderful.
Probably would have been nicer to drive off in that Corvette, though.
Say?
Probably would have been nicer to drive off in that Corvette. All right, before we let you guys go, I want to ask you about this Packers team, because if there's one person to ask about the 2023 Packers, it's Jerry Kramer. So what are your initial impressions of the Jordan Love era?
I am still on the fence, but I have been encouraged with Jordan Love's play, with the exception of Thursday night. I wasn't very pleased with that. But the game before that, in the final 5 minutes, he was brilliant. He just played extremely well. And that made me really feel good because I didn't know if he had it or not. Well, he has it. And now if he can just bring a couple people along with him, we've got 4 or 5 people injured right now, so we're not close to strength. But I'm encouraged about that position and about Jordan Love. So we got us a quarterback, I think, that will last a long time. It's like Aaron or Brett or Bart or any of the great quarterbacks we've had. I think he can come to that position, and I believe his attitude is right, and he will continue to perform and study and become better.
Yeah.
So I'm going to wait with him now for a while.
Do you see any similarities between Love and Bart?
Bart, I think Love may throw the ball better than Bart. Really, Bart was very, very bright about where he threw the ball. He didn't have great velocity, but he had great accuracy. He threw it hard enough and at the right distance, and that everything was good about it. But it wasn't a snappy throw, a throw that would knock you over, maybe, But Jordan Love has got a great arm, and he threw some balls that if he can just capture that attitude and be the same guy every Sunday afternoon, we're gonna win some games, I think.
Yeah. So Jerry, Bob, before we let you guys go, obviously we're here for the launch of Jerry Kramer's new book, Run to Win, My Packers Life from Lombardi to Canton. Bob, your favorite part of the journey of writing this book?
Well, part of the journey when you're doing this book, obviously the people that were involved in the book, it's a who's list. Like Jeremy Schaap does the forward, son of Dick Schaap, the late, great Dick Schaap. So we have a Schaap connection again with Jerry. We had Rick Gosselin did the introduction. He was the guy in the Hall of Fame, the voter, the leader of the seniors committee that really got Jerry into the Hall, or one of the guys that really helped get him into the Hall. David Moranis, one of the great football books of all time. When he talked about Coach Lombardi, he did a blurb about Jerry in the book. Vince Lombardi Jr., Bart Starr Jr., you talked about David Baker. He did a blurb. Bud Selig did a blurb. It's like a who's who list of people that really helped us out. But really, just like talked about it earlier, just the collaboration of talking to Jerry. And sometimes when we were doing the book, we'd talk about this player or that player. And by the way, we have, I believe, 28 chapters about Jerry's teammates that he played with on the Packers. That's part of the book. Just Jerry talking about them and their career, et cetera, including Bart and Willie Davis and folks like that. Bob Skoronsky, guys like that. By the way, about Bob Skoronsky, talking about Coach Lombardi. Coach Lombardi is watching film, and he says, "What the hell are you doing there, 76?" And all of a sudden, after the film session, Skoronsky comes up to Jerry. He goes, "Jesus Christ, after 7 years, you'd think he'd know my name."
He didn't even know my name.
Yeah. But yeah, just everything, the collaboration with Jerry. I mean, sometimes we talk about the book and sometimes we talk about whatever, just life in general. And every time we have a conversation, I mean, it's like, forget about the next hour, Bob, because we're going to be talking to Jerry. He's just a great storyteller, and nobody's ever been better.
And Jerry, I know Bob had some big shoes to fill, replacing Dick Schaap as the guy who would write the books with you. So what was this journey like with Bob, writing this book?
Bob knew where we wanted to go more than I did. I knew that there were a lot of stories that I enjoyed telling and enjoyed sharing with people that had nothing to do with the football field. And I would call Bob and ask him about this or that, or look this up, or what do you think of that? And he was a sounding board for me, and I don't think I would have done it or could have done it without him. So I really appreciate his help and his guidance and his intellect and his ability to collaborate with me on this book. And it was a collaboration of friends and trying to do something that we thought you folks would like, and maybe look a little bit off the field and under the tarp a little bit to some of the goings-on that the ball players have. And one more last final, and we'll get out of here. We're in Milwaukee, and it had to be 61 or 62, and we're in a restaurant that has a dance hall on like the third floor. And there's a big piano. Ray Charles is up there doing his bit. I love Ray Charles. And they invite us up to the mic. There were like 6 or 7 of us, Horning and Ron Kramer and Fuzzy and I and Jimmy probably and Boyd maybe. And so they invite us up to the front of the stage and they want to introduce us. And there's 500 people there, and I'm still in Idaho. I'm still country. And I am nervous about it. And they introduce me, and I step forward and say hi and kind of shyly get the hell back in line quickly. And most of the guys do. And they introduce Horning. And he comes out and he goes, "Thank you, goody, goody." And he sings a song, and I'm going, "Look at this guy. Look at this. Look at him." And so he was much more mature, and he was a kick in the pants to be with and a lot of fun. We were lucky to have him. He's a great ball player, but he was also a great guy to hang with.
Yeah.
There's just one other story in the book that I just want to mention. This one I know Jerry's never written about. It was when, first of all, everybody see the original Walking Tall in 1973 with Joe Don Baker? That was one of the biggest hits in 1973. Guess who was offered the lead role before Joe Don Baker? This guy,
Really?
right? This guy right here, yeah. And
Guess who choked?
he just turned it down. I wouldn't say he choked. But anyway, think about it. His 2 biggest competitors in pro football, Alex Karras and Merlin Olsen, both became successful actors. And I think Jerry would have done the same thing had he accepted that role. I really think so.
And was flattered by it. It was Dick Zanuck, who is Darrell F. Zanuck's son. Darrell F. has made 150 westerns, or just a tremendous number of films. And we're down at Acapulco, and I've been in the apartment building business at that time, and we're meeting a guy who has 4,000 or 5,000 apartments, and we're going to have a chat with him. And somebody taps me on the shoulder, and I turn around, and I don't know him. I've never seen him. And he said, Jerry, my name is Dick Zanuck. I'm here at my father's house at Darrell F. Zanuck's, and this is David Brown and Helen Gurley Brown with me. And we'd like to have you come up to Dad's place for New Year's Eve. Would you like to join us? I said, hey, I got 4 or 5 guys with me, and I can't leave them. I would love to come see Darrell F. and chat with him and you and whatnot, but I'm not going to leave my buds on New Year's Eve, right? Well, you don't have to. Bring them all. Okay. So we go up to Darrell F.'s New Year's Eve party. And one of the guys that joined us late had a 55-foot Chris Craft down at Acapulco. So we're having a great time telling stories, and Mr. Zanuck was just outstanding. And so it gets to be it's New Year's Eve, so we're all night, and it gets to be like 1 o'clock. And David Brown, the guy from Santa Monica, says, why don't we go sailing? It's a beautiful night. It's a big, huge moon. It's a warm, gentle breeze. It's just gorgeous. Why don't we go sailing? Okay. So we all grabbed a wine bottle, and we went down to the dock and went sailing till about 7 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, and just had a sensational night and wonderful celebration. And come back, and Mr. Zanuck says, I got to get back to work. He says, I've got a real ball of stuff in front of me, and I got to get going. And by the way, Jerry, he said, we got the rent paid on this place where we're staying for the next couple of weeks, and you could move in if you'd like. And I was, well, let us come look at it. I'm not sure it's good enough for me.
Green Bay, Acapulco.
So we go look at it, and he has 5 servants. He has a big pool about the size of this room. He has a cable car running down to the beach, right? Yeah, this will work. And so we moved in there for 2 weeks, and just had a ball. I mean, we went to the cliff dives, we went to the bullfights, we went to everything about what was happening. And I invited like 35 people for dinner one night. Had a great time. There were some Chicago Bears there and different guys from different teams. So it was just a picnic. And I called Dick when I was leaving after he had left earlier, and I called him when I went through L.A., and I said, can I take you to lunch or dinner or anything? I said, I really appreciate the use of the hall, and it's a beautiful spot, and we had a great time, and I'd like to, take you to lunch or dinner or whatever you'd like. Oh, Jerry, I'm up to my neck in alligators, and I've really got a lot of stuff what's going here. Why don't you come out to the studio, and we'll have lunch at the commissary? Okay, I'd kind of like to do that anyway, right? So we go out, and David Brown takes me aside, and he said, Jerry, there's we're working on a film, and it's about a sheriff in down south, in Alabama maybe, or somewhere like that, and he cleans the city up with a baseball bat, and we think you might be able to play the role. Would you be interested? I got autograph session tomorrow in Portland, and I got this, and I got this, and I got this, and I got that, and I'm just not going to be available. And I've cussed myself ever since. I don't know, right, that it would have been turned out well, or maybe not, or Lord knows, But I treasure the memory, and it's another one of those things that happened off the football field that was kind of serendipitous.
Yeah, and you'll read into this book. Not bad for a class clown and a guy that got erased by Frank Sinatra. Jerry, Bob, thanks so much.
Let's have a round. Are we on, Bob? Yeah.
What's that?
Okay. Let's have a round for Dario, Jerry, and Bob. Great panel. Great audience, too, by the way.
Thank you.
So let's set the table for the rest of the night. So Jerry and Bob are going to sign books over here. We also have Jim, who has restored beautifully the Pabst Blue Ribbon best place a block away. Because everybody loves Jerry. Ralph and Shelley Stayer of Johnsonville have donated 150 bratwursts, and they're over at Jim's place. And one thing I've learned, if you want to get a bunch of people in Wisconsin, get a Packer legend, get the Pabst Brewery, and get some bratwurst going. That's a pretty good start right there. But I also, coming from Los Angeles, I want to compliment all of you because I love, and this is why the Packers have the best fans in the world, because all of you were paying attention. In L.A., someone would be texting or not even, and it was just beautiful to watch how and shaking your head. Most of you know most of these stories. So before we do the book signing, though, we're going to do one thing. We're going to auction off that poster. You can bring it home with you, beautiful poster. And we got to compliment and thank Lauren and Triumph Books, for the great job on the books. Am I getting the name right?
Yes.
Triumph, yeah, okay. And the posters. So everybody in this room better know the answer, but who is the gentleman that Jerry Kramer blocked in the Ice Bowl? There it is, right there. We got one winner. That was an easy one. And I want to share two stories. Jerry is a family man also, and I want to thank Matt and Alicia and Jerry's grandson, Charlie, for sharing your father and grandfather with us all, because everybody in this room loves them. And if anybody has a first edition instant replay, if you open the in-leaf, that kind of yellow, Matt looks exactly like Jerry did at whatever age Jerry was in that book. Right back there. And you'll see Matt tonight. But in closing, two other people I'd like to mention. One of Jerry's lifelong friends, Willie Davis. And they were really either the first or second black-white roommates in the NFL and developed a lifelong friendship. And Willie, till he passed, had a Jerry Kramer room in his house in Playa del Rey. And I had the privilege of spending time and just being a fly on the wall and seeing the lovely relationship they had. And one of Jerry's other books, Distant Replay, Willie Davis, who was on the board of Dow Corning, MGM, UA, opened the Nelson Mandela School 40 years after he'd played football. He said, when I lie in bed at night and I'm a success in business, I still think Coach Lombardi would have been proud of me. And that was the impact he had. And I'll leave you with this on Jerry, just to tell you a story. You see, Jerry could tell stories, and it's pretty good when you got 6 books and you still tell stories nobody's ever heard before. That's pretty good. But one story nobody's ever heard was when the Packers were in the Super Bowl in Dallas, and it was the first game, Jerry World. If you guys remember, it was really icy. And I grew up in Buffalo. You guys are in Wisconsin. We know how to deal with ice. Dallas does not. So Blimpie Subs had hired Jerry to come down from Idaho and speak to their best salespeople and the CEO and everyone. And the ice shut down airports. And I know I literally had the last flight out of LA. The pilot goes, high five the person next to you because you're not going to get a flight to Dallas. So the CEO's meeting with the people and says, sorry, looks like Mr. Kramer couldn't make it. And the conference room door busts open, and in walks Jerry. And the CEO was just blown away. He goes, how the hell did you get here from Idaho? There's no flights. He goes, well, I flew to San Antonio, and I drove 5 hours because you hired me. That's the type of man. And the CEO just loved him. Who does that, And so what we'll do from now, we'll do those that want to purchase a book, Jerry and Bob will sign, and then Jim's going to have books over there as well, and also some libations, I'm told, and there's a bar right behind us here. But I'd like to close with thanking John Ridley, Lisa Caesar, and the whole crew here, all these people that put on a great production at No Studios. And again, for those of you that live local, please support them, support their events, and just kind of a little inside baseball during football. John Ridley and Lisa's father was a very prominent doctor here in the community of Milwaukee. And John actually wrote a lovely script on one of Jerry's books. So for any of you religious folks, keep us in your prayers. We're still hoping one of Jerry's books makes it to as a feature film. And John wrote an amazing script about this era and Coach Lombardi. So thank you. Thank you, No Studios.